Welcome to the Misfit Squad Podcast,
where we invite you to embrace your difference and to discover a spectrum of possibilities and change what's wrong about you into what is strong about you.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Misfit Squad Podcast. Today, and most of this month really, we're going to be talking about energy and something. So today we're going to talk about energy and animals. And what got me thinking about talking about this topic is the majority of people, there are some weirdos, weirder than us, who don't really like animals. So I'm not talking about those people, but most of us, most of the people who are following here on the Misfit Squad Podcast, which apparently I can't say today, are more comfortable around animals. Animals make them feel better, blah, blah, blah. So, and obviously for me, that is super amplified, even more so when I'm with horses. So it just got me thinking about like, what is that? Why is that? You know, I wonder if people are curious about that. So why does your dog make you feel better? Or if you're not a dog person, why does your cat make you feel better? And it has to do primarily with how they be in the world and the energy that they function with. So, more specifically, what do you got to say about that, Trina?
Well, you know, there's lots of people who would say that their animal's their best friend, you know, versus like another human being or another thing. And I mean, how often if you have a pet or something at home, right when you walk in the door, what runs to greet you? You know, who's all excited to normally see you unless they're sleeping? They come to the door and they're like wagging their tail or purring, or I don't know, maybe you have a pig in your house and they're snorting at you. I don't know.
I don't have that, but I want that now.
But they come to you whether you had a crappy day or a really awesome day, and they're not judging you. And they're just excited to see you because they're excited to see you. No questions asked. And that's a lot of what shows up and why people love animals so much, is because they don't judge. And they don't judge you. They may like get loud if you're not feeding them and you're ignoring them. But they don't judge you for who you are and how you show up in the world. And it's that nurturing and that kindness. It's very similar energy to some degree, like if you're out in nature, you know, when you're walking along the trees or somewhere, and that's all there is out there is nature. Nature doesn't judge either.
Yeah. So kind of, we've people listening are seekers, right? You've read this book or that book or studied this or that, or have always been looking information. And one of the things that you hear talk a lot about is like being present, right? Which sort of goes hand in hand with like, what's your mindset? So animals are always completely present in the moment, right? They don't wake up and we're like, oh, my hair looks bad today. This is going to be a bad day. Right? So if you want to like explore this more, you want to sort of tune in to the energy that your animal's being with you and ask them to show you how to embody more of that. Right?
Yeah. This weekend I was I finally got to leave and go somewhere, and I went to my parents, and there's a little lake that they have. And anyway, my sister was there who has a dog, and my sister-in-law with all my nieces and nephews came as well with their new dog. And she was like this little fluffy snowball and so cute, but it was so funny. She'd be running around and she'd just like look at you and she'd stop and she'd roll over and she'd put her legs up and just play. She'd just like go hide in the grass, and then she'd pop up. And I was like, wow, that is such the energy of like what you're talking about, being present in the moment and being there, and that curiosity and that wonder and just the joy of actually being alive. And it was so cool to watch her, and she'd just get super excited. And I wasn't there that day, but I guess they were all, I mean, my mom was like watching like 10 kids, all of all ages from like 6 months up. And they went for a walk, and she's like, oh my God, it was like disastrous, crazy. And my niece was trying to bike with pulling a leash, a really, really, really extra long leash with the puppy. And the bike was like about ready to fall over. So anyway, the puppy ended up getting into the stroller with the babies. But nobody minded. And it was just like this total nurturing, fun, it just made everybody laugh. So that's kind of the energy that Kim's talking about, is like looking at that aliveness and that being present and what they actually create for you in your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. That's why animals make you feel better. They just are who they are in every moment, and they don't judge us. which pretty much, unless you're super lucky, you only find that from the animals and the nature in your life.
Yeah. And so do you have anything you'd like to add in about horses?
For me, horses are just like all of that on steroids. And some of that might be because, they're 1,000 to 1,200 pound animals. So like the physical size of them exponentializes things. But there's been a lot of studies done about horses and the things that happen with them in terms of that. Like horses can actually, and I think this is probably true of other pets too, but I haven't seen any studies or articles about this in particular, but horses can actually essentially like modulate their energy to your energy. So when we ride or when we interact with horses, we talk about like what's in your brain is going to be in their brain, right? Like what you think, they also will experience. And so if you're stressed out and not being present and getting really amped up, and then you get on your horse to ride, you're probably going to have a snorty, amped up horse, right? But they also have an amazing capacity, again, so they modulate their energy. So they have found that they can sort of modulate their heartbeat to your heartbeat. So they have a way of how they do it that really, I think, can feel more real in like your physical body, So if you go up and just like take a deep breath out, like they can modulate. And again, you can impact them by not doing it. And then they can also help you calm down by modulating and helping you change your physiological responses. And again, I'm sure that other animals do this as well, but there's been, because equine therapy and equine coaching and equine assisted learning has become more popular, they're starting to look more scientifically at like what occurs.
Well, I know, like for myself, when I've gone riding on horses, when I'm like, just like you're talking about, when you're really anxious, I've gotten on and they're like trotting and like jumpity, like all over the place. And as soon, like what we've talked about in previous podcasts is about, being more space and expanding out. And as soon as I like expanded out and really got more in tune, like with the earth, and was aware of the earth and pulled the energy of the earth up through the horse, up through me, and like out the top of my head, which is a whole nother thing we can talk about sometime. But that.
Here comes the train. Just a minute. Well, maybe it's not going to toot its horn today.
Not tooting. Dang it, it's not tooting. Anyway, when I expanded my energy out and connected with the earth and connected with the horse, like all of us together in one big unit, it made such a big difference. And there was so much more peace in my world, and there was so much more peace with the horse. And it teaches you so much, because it is like modulates, like Kim says. So that means it resonates with where you're at and where you're functioning. And a lot of the stuff that you think in your head, they will deliver. And that's why it's so amazing with like the equine therapy and all that, like working with for anybody and everybody, because it gets you to be how aware you can be when you listen to the subtleties of what's going on in your heads. When you start thinking about all this things you have to do and all of that, it changes the energy, versus when you're present and you're actually writing and enjoying what's going on. But the other part with the like equine therapy, like for like kids on the spectrum, or not even on the spectrum, but when kids ride, especially those who are nonverbal, that telepathic communication that happens between the horse and the child is just amazing. And that's why a lot of those kids love riding horses, because somebody actually hears them. Somebody actually acknowledges them for what they are saying and who they are. So animals can be such an amazing contribution in our lives.
There's also something that occurs physiologically in the kind of rocking motion that occurs in your body when you actually ride on a horse, that takes it, again, sort of like to the next level. Obviously, you're not going to ride your dog.
Well, yeah, and it works a lot on all of those things, on your balance and your core muscles, which in turn deals with like your riding reactions, your vestibular system, your proprioceptive system, so tactile system. So it all comes into play. So it not only works with the energy and the modulation, but you're actually working and getting a greater connection with your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, truly, if you, and maybe some of you don't have pets, like I actually don't have a pet in my house, but I love animals. I love being around them. And what can you just be aware of this week with your pet, if you have one, and become more present and see what they're actually asking you to be.
Well, yeah, and if you don't have a pet, we all hear birds. I don't know, depending where you are. There's a lizard outside my door right now, like looking at me. Like you see birds, or you see someone, just sort of like take a breath and tune into that animal, and ask to know more about the energy they're being. And that's all you have to do is ask. It might not seem like anything happens, but just start sort of being more aware, paying more attention to those sorts of things, and see what might start to show up differently.
Yeah, you can do that with all kinds of animals.
Yep.
Like the birds. Even this past spring, I had we have bunnies. I have bunnies like a lot around my place, and I had bunnies that were created a nest right outside my front door in like a little bush thing. And at first the bunny was all jittery whenever I like open the door, come out, and I just started talking to it and be like, hey, and I gave it the presence of like, it's okay, and I'm not going to injure you or the babies. And then she was just so willing to be around, and it was so cool to watch that interaction take place, where she didn't have to run off anymore and try to hide. And yeah, so you can be that energy with all kinds of animals.
Yep, absolutely. So there we go. Energy and animals. Tune into the energy that animals be, and see how that feels to you, seems to you, see how that shows up in your body.
Yeah. And if you guys want more information, You can go find us on energeticsignatureformula.com, and there is a free PDF on energy and dealing with tips and tools to overcome anxiety and
Overwhelm.
overwhelm.
Yeah. Or if you've got more, body stuff going on, you can also go to isyourbodyourbuddy.com, and we have a free ebook there that talks more specifically about exercises in relation to like body intensities.
Yeah, and getting present and being with your body. So that's isyourbody.com. So
Is
check
your
it
body your buddy?
Yeah, sorry. Is your body yourbody.com.
Yeah. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for listening to the show.
Our target is to make your awareness easy to use and to acknowledge the power of not fitting in.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and share it with someone you know.
Why fit in when you were born to stand out?
Embrace your difference. Join the Misfit Squad.